My first dream was to go to the Olympics and hopefully also win a medal, but just to go there. And that was in Vancouver. And I absolutely fell in love with Vancouver then. And it's like still like my best memories of hockey. So for me to kind of be able to go back there and actually be able to get my other dream come true, it's just like couldn't have been better.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I am thrilled and honored to be joined by Michelle Karvinen, a veteran of European and international hockey who is now preparing to bring her game back to North America with the PWHL's Vancouver franchise. Michelle, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am excited to go through your entire hockey journey, including this as you prepare for this exciting next chapter. But as this is your first time on the show, we have to start by rewinding the tape back to the beginning. So I want to know from you, when did hockey first feel like it was more than just a game for you? Like that moment where you realized like this could be something.
Yeah, I think a little backstory is like I actually grew up in Denmark with a Danish mom and a Finnish dad. And I think I was around like 12, 13 or something. I got the chance to go to Finland to join their youth national team. And that was the first time I actually realized that this is like for real. Before that, I was just playing with boys in Denmark, and I didn't really see a lot of future because there wasn't really anyone to play with. But luckily I had a chance through my dad to join the Finnish team. And when I first kind of got a taste of that, I was really thrilled and excited for what I could achieve in the future.
Do you remember what it was specifically about that shift in joining going to Finland and stuff? Do you remember what it was specifically that kind of like fell into place that made you feel like this was the path that you were supposed to be on?
Yeah, I think it was the first time I got to play with other girls, so it was just like, wow, there's other girls doing what I'm doing, and obviously like the doors to playing world championships on the highest level, and even Olympics. Suddenly it became something that would be realistic for me. So I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but I think mainly just being able to play with other girls.
Going back to Denmark here for just a moment, was there in those earlier days, were there was there a coach or maybe a teammate or a particular moment that maybe helped to also shape the way that you approach the game today, even to this moment?
Yes, definitely. I grew up with a dad who has been a skills coach for many years, and I think around the time when he got really interested in actually doing these individual practices and practicing skills and very like breaking the game down to small like pieces, and I kind of fell in love all over again with hockey because I love that you could actually work on every little details. You never really had the chance in team practices to do that. So I think for me, the game changer was actually my dad. And he's also been the one who's been teaching me anything I know about how to skate and how to handle the puck and all those things.
Thinking back through your career, especially those early days, were there maybe, lessons or observations that were shared with you or that you learned yourself that have really stuck with you when you've had to navigate those ups and those downs?
I think obviously, like, mm, being from Europe or even like Denmark or half Danish, half Finnish, like, like not having the same circumstances as most players, I think you had to navigate a lot of adversity. And I think it's also something that, you can see in any game you play, the perfect game doesn't exist. So I think kind of having to navigate a lot of like obstacles early in my career has kind of like built me as a player, but also mentally. I played a lot of different like leagues and I tried a lot of things, but I think like it's sometimes you just have to have a broader perspective to what is being thrown at you. Yeah, because a lot of times it's, it's just you kind of have to embrace that things are different, or maybe things are going not your way. You can always. It really depends how you choose to look at it. Either you can learn from it, or then you can basically drag you down. So I think it's something that has been absolutely something that's been good for me in my career.
Do you think that, because that perspective really sounded like a veteran perspective, someone who's been a leader throughout their career. Do you think that perspective, like, what do you think throughout your career has helped to shape that perspective? Has that been something that just kind of happened through various levels of the game, through various experiences? Do you think it's also just who you are and maybe your upbringing that's kind of lent itself to that perspective, that you can only control what you can control, and there are other variables that you just can't control, and don't focus so much on those?
I think obviously hockey is like it's an ever-changing game. Every game looks different, so it's something you have learned throughout your career. But I also think as a human, I've lived in a lot of different countries, and I have met and learned from a lot of different cultures. So it's something that I think also, if you think about how the world looks right now, it's all about perspective, and it's all about having understanding for differences, but also finding a way to be united. And yeah, I think hockey has also brought that to me. I've learned a lot off the ice as well, because I've had chances to travel around and learn from a lot of different people.
Oh, you have set me up with the perfect assist on this one, because this next one has to do with perspective, but it also has to do with your with traveling around and during your time in Europe. And I wanted to know how spending so much a bulk of your career in Europe, playing in various leagues, playing also internationally, of course, how that time really helped to shape the way that you approach the game more specifically.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's like, at least for me, maybe not so different from most players in my generation. I think one of the main things that has been kind of a motivation for us and my generation. I think I can speak for all of us. Is like to kind of create a better. We want to leave the game better than it was when we started, and I think I have found a lot of like motivation from that. And I think in Europe I played in a lot of teams from the beginning, basically from their day one of existence, and trying to build up something that we have a long lasting effect and will create a good future for a lot of hockey girls. And I think it's like something like that that's basically been kind of my path. And I think a lot of like, basically, I would say my whole generation, I know a lot of players who have sacrificed a lot. And I also think now with the new league, there's a lot of players who didn't even get to play there, but basically built it.
Winning is something you've experienced throughout your career, including with Frölunda. You helped lead them to their first ever title, which must have been a really unique and incredible experience, of course. So I kind of want to know, first of all, let's start with the fun stuff. What was that? What was that like? What was it like to go through that process of bringing that first title home to Frölunda?
It was like amazing. Would be a really good word, but just to kind of give a little background, like we started a program 3 years ago and had to play in a lower division to bring them up to a higher division. So it was only our second year that we actually managed to win the Swedish gold. So yeah, it was basically like a rocket journey. That ended in one of the biggest rankings in Sweden, in front of the largest crowd ever at a women's hockey game in Sweden. So I think that says a lot. Obviously, it's like it's a goal, but I think everything that was around the game and how it helped to also kind of get the game in in the right direction and move forward with the development of women's hockey in Sweden and Europe. It was like a huge game. It was more than just like a goal for us, but obviously like us who've been part of like the whole journey is quite unique to do that in 3 years.
Like you mentioned, helping to build up that team, not just literally as a team, but also through the ranks to get to become as successful, take home that title. You know, going into Vancouver, Vancouver, obviously, they're a brand new team. The league is only going into its third year. What lessons do you have, or have you that you hope you can bring from your experience with Frölunda into this new team in Vancouver?
I think it's all about like I would say like it's fun with women's hockey because like it will be able to attract a whole nother crowd, and I think like it's something that's very unique when you start a new team. Obviously, as a team, you get to create a culture from the ground up, but you also get to kind of like create a culture in the city, and I think
Mm.
that's something that's at least from my experience, it's something that's very important. So I think for the team also to kind of be united with Vancouver, but also all of British Columbia is like it's very important and something that we don't take for granted. But it's a huge responsibility because like with women's hockey being where they are now, we have a responsibility not just for our team. We're also now like kind of like we need to be a good example and also keep working and pushing forward for the growth the sport, grow the sport in the area. So that's something I think I can bring to the team, like kind of this broader perspective of like it's not just about hockey, it's also about everything going around like the whole city and area.
After years of playing in Europe, the next chapter of your career brought you to North America at UND for your collegiate career. Um, so I guess I just kind of want to know, after all those years, those various leagues, those various levels or tiers of leagues as well. What were your impressions of the North American game and being over here playing in front of North American fans as well?
It was the first time I kind of felt like a almost like a pro athlete. It was kind of a dream come true to come over there, and also it was a very fun experience because it's like a little different style of hockey, and we have a bigger sheet of ice in Europe, so it's a faster game, and it's something that was like very like fun to learn, and I feel like it's also shaped me a lot as a player. It's something I learned a lot from those years, and then obviously also kind of being able to combine the school and playing at the same time. It was a very cool experience, and obviously North Dakota is like they're like crazy about hockey, so it was very unique to be able to play there.
Okay, so you keep setting me up with these great assists, so I gotta appreciate it when it happens, of course. But um, because you alluded to it there, obviously, you know there are challenges, there are differences between the games. You know the literally just the rink size for starters. You know, but when you look back on those collegiate years, how do you think playing in the NCAA and maybe those challenges or obstacles, however you want to frame it, maybe change your approach to the game itself?
Yeah, I think like obviously it was like a time where we you kind of needed to adapt because like you have a bigger sheet of ice, and I normally try to explain it like this, that I think like it's almost like European players are skating themselves out of the game because they
Okay.
skate a lot and because they're
Mm.
used to a bigger sheet of ice, where like North American players, or I would say they are more used to like having like certain skating patterns with what will keep them inside the game. So I think that's one of the main things that are a little bit more tricky. And obviously, quicker releases and things like that is things like you really need to put a lot of focus and effort to improve if you want to do well in the North American style of hockey.
Okay, so then in kind of keeping with that, when you, the time that you spent at UND, throughout that experience, there are of course a number of different takeaways that you're gonna have, obviously as a person, of course. um but I do want to know from your perspective maybe some of the lessons that you learned from your time in North America that have stuck with you, both, obviously as you went back to Europe and you've had a ton of these incredible experiences, Olympics, various international tournaments, and now as you're coming back to North America. What were some of those lessons from your time at UND that have stuck with you through this whole journey?
I think like going to college, it was the first time you actually had like routines, and it was all about hockey, and being able to kind of like balance like both school and hockey, but also when you got back to Europe, you might have, for me at least, I started working when I came back. So, but I was already in the habit of like actually having my outside life of hockey, and then also hockey, and being able to balance that at the same time. Obviously, the college did a great job of like giving you those tools to actually be able to do multiple like things at the same time. And so I think that that's like one of the things that helped me a lot after college, and obviously also getting a degree. I have basically used that degree ever since I like graduated, so I'm very happy for that experience.
How important do you think that it has, or that it was, that you were able to learn that balance where you can, somehow navigate, being an elite level athlete in the NCAA, but also academic and having academic success, as well as hopefully at some point having some time to just like not have to worry about the game and have some fun outside of the game. How important was it for you to have found that balance, especially as you look at the longevity of your career?
I think it's extremely important. You don't know what life would throw at you, and I think especially as a women's hockey player, you have to
Mhm.
navigate a lot of things at the same time, and that takes a lot of work, and it also takes some routines and things like that. So I think like it has made me more adaptable to a lot of like different like things in life to be able to do it at the same time, and yeah, and just I think overall it was just like a very unique experience, where I learned a lot as a player, but also as a human, and as I kind of like, I feel like I'm circling around, but it really has done a lot for me to be able to actually like explore a lot of different things in life at the same time I'm playing hockey, because I think it's important to do other things outside hockey as well.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to take a bit of a break from it, right? Rather
Yeah.
than, as much as we've established that you're quite the student of the game, it's also nice to be able to just disconnect. I think that's a totally normal thing. And I think that's, when you're an athlete, it might be even more important because you're always thinking about what's next and how to get
Mm.
better, but not always how you got to where you are, or wanting to disconnect, which is something we all should do a better job at.
Yes.
After your time at UND, you've also had the opportunity to represent your country at various international tournaments. Um, and I want to narrow down specifically on the Olympics and the experience that you've had through the Olympics. And whether there was, there's a lot of different ways I could ask this question in regards to how cool was it to, put on your country's colors for the first time. But I wanted to try this a different way and ask whether there was a memory, whether it was on the ice or on the ice, that best represented what it meant to represent your country.
I think one moment that really like stands out for me, this was during the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. Was actually we were playing the bronze medal game against Sweden, and I got to score my first like Olympic goal. But what I thought was very unique was like it was basically just Canadians in the stands, but you felt like almost like the roof went off. And
Mhm.
I think it just gave me a whole nother appreciation for sport and how it can unite people. And yeah, it's definitely like a moment that really, really stands out and probably something that I will never forget. And yeah, it's something that's, yeah, I will probably never forget it.
That's incredible. It gave me chills. I only ever had the opportunity to watch watch those games on TV. So for you to have been able to experience that, but also to be able to experience what it felt like to score a goal in what would end up somehow the stars aligned your new home, starting your pro career on the North American side. It's incredible. Um, Over the years, what do you think is the most striking change that you've seen in women's hockey, whether it's the style of play, maybe the culture around women's hockey, obviously the opportunities, that's a huge part of it as well, but from your perspective, what are some of those changes that you've seen?
Um, there's been a lot of changes, but I think
Mhm.
one of the things I'm just really like which is close to my heart is like that I feel like women's hockey is super inclusive,
Mhm.
and it's something that's very unique, and I feel like it gives a lot of hope for the future. And I think women's hockey is a place like that can unite people. And now I'm using same words again, but it's just like very special and something that I think especially the PWHL have done a really good job at. But then obviously also as a women's hockey player, just to be able to play in front of people and being that are not your family, friends, and all that,
Mhm.
it's just like yeah, it's unbelievable.
This episode is brought to you by MB Performance Nutrition, fueling the next generation of hockey players. Whether your athlete is just starting out or chasing next level performance, MB Performance Nutrition has free resources to help, like a meal timing guide and protein powder buying checklist. Founded by Melissa Bufunos, a certified holistic nutritionist and former elite hockey player, MB Performance Nutrition also offers one on one coaching, team workshops, and more. Learn more at melissabufunos.com. That's MELISSABOUFOUNOS.com. One of the things that I really wanted to be focused on during our conversation was obviously you have been around the game for a long time and you've seen it at different levels and you've had a ton of different experiences. And you've also had to overcome your own set of challenges and your own set of obstacles. But you've also seen a tremendous amount of success. So it's of course important to balance those things out. But when you think about where the game is now, you've had or you've been a part of a lot of moments that have really helped to inspire the next generation. And you're going to be a part of many more moments during your PWHL career. How do you see your role in helping to grow the women's game, especially as we're starting to see so much more enthusiasm, passion, and a following behind the game with the PWHL?
I would say it's a lot about inspiring the next generation that's coming. Because obviously you have a unique platform when you're an active player, and I think of like kind of inspire them and like let them know what kind of opportunities there is to actually keep moving the sport in the right direction. Because I think it's if you look at the players who have actually been able to build the league we have today. It's all, it's players. So and we need to be a part of like also pushing the next generation, not just to be satisfied because we have a really good start, but it's also about keep building on this momentum we have right now. And I think that's will like be a lot up to the next generation as well.
Okay, so then that begs the follow-up question, being that, when you think about those young players, so of course, the current crop of NCAA players, youth sports here in Canada, of course, they're one step away potentially from a pro career. But there's also a lot of even younger players who are now, as you've kind of mentioned a few times throughout throughout our conversation, there's now a pathway for them where there wasn't for your generation or even many generations after you as well. For those young players who are watching you make this move to the PWHL and the growth and enthusiasm and passion behind this league, what's maybe one lesson or an insight that you hope they take away from your journey?
And not to be afraid of adversity, and obviously also for me, I think joining the league like in a little like later in my career as well. I think like even if you won't like maybe make it to the pro league right away, it's not over. There's a lot of like ways to keep your game going and keep improving, and maybe one day you will end up in the league anyway. And I think that's also why it's so important that like we have a good league in now in US and Canada obviously, and we also want to have a good league in Europe. We want to have a couple good leagues in Europe. We want to grow the game everywhere. But I think as a young player, it's like also just like the perfect game doesn't exist. You might be in a tough spot where you might not make a team or something like that, but if you keep having the right mindset and not bringing yourself down, because I think that's the main thing. It's like many times like the toughest opponent is yourself. So I think just like try to take a lot of energy from what's happening right now, but also like keep pushing forward no matter what will happen on your journey.
We've kind of danced around it for long enough. So let's get into this exciting next chapter, because that's really what everyone's looking for. Everyone's excited to finally see you hit the ice in the PWHL in this exciting new league. For you, being Vancouver's first ever PWHL draft pick, that is such a huge milestone on a resume that is full of huge milestones. What does that moment, though, mean to you personally as well as professionally?
um I feel like it's almost too good to be true. I feel like it's kind of like a full circle moment for
Mhm.
me personally. My first dream was to go to the Olympics and hopefully also win a medal, but
Mhm.
just to go there, and that was in Vancouver, and I absolutely fell in love with Vancouver then, and it's like still like my best memories of hockey. So for me to kind of be able to go back there and actually be able to get my other dream come true, it's just like couldn't have been better. So I'm just super honored and crazy excited to go there. I'm yeah, it is a dream come true.
And I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask this question, because I also want to know from you, like, you're about ready to embark on this really, really monumental moment for women's hockey as we continue to see the growth of the PWHL. We continue to see a league that has found a way to maintain sustainability, which will inevitably be sort of a blueprint for what success could look like around the world when it comes to women's hockey. As you said, have those great leagues around around the world. That's so important for the growth of the sport. When you think back to those days in Denmark, way back when, playing with boys and not necessarily feeling like this was ever going to be a career path for you, you've now had quite the career, and it's like you said, you're about to embark on a full circle moment going back to Vancouver. What does it mean to you to look back on those days and say, there was a time when I might not have done this, and now look at you in this moment.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of like times in my career where like "Ah, I don't want to do this anymore. We're not
Mhm.
getting anywhere, you know. So I think like for me, obviously it's like super excited to be able to go and play hockey in the PWHL, but I also think for me personally, it's just like I'm just really thrilled to be a part of like the development of women's hockey. I think that almost means more to me. Uh, so yeah, it's a lot of like good things like at the same time, and then just like yeah, it's crazy to think about sitting in Denmark and collecting small like NHL cards with like men's hockey players, and now like when I went to the draft, somebody handed me like PWHL hockey cards, and it's just like yeah, it's now it's actually happening, and I get to experience it. So just super honored.
Has it really sunk in yet? Like that you're about to embark on this? I asked the questions, you have a giant smile on your face, so I guess I can kind of gather the answer.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times like people have been asking me, have it sunk in yet? You know, like after the draft, I'm like, I don't think it will before it's actually happening. Like when you're there, the first puck drop, like yeah, um, but it's also a nice feeling. You get kind of get to like feel like a little bit like exciting and
Mhm.
nervous and all these good feelings for a little longer time, and it's almost like a Christmas Eve. You're waiting for just like to be able to actually experience it.
I was going to say first day of school, but
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, that sounds way better. Nobody look forward to school. So yeah, that's a much better example. Um, um, in keeping with the PWHL and obviously moving to Vancouver, playing once again in North America, what are you maybe most curious about or most excited about in coming back to play in North America, and in this case, back to a place that is so important to you? What are you most excited about?
Well, I think like the last couple of years I've been kind of like a fan of PWHL, but I also just like to be able to be there, play there, see the level of where we at now in women's hockey. It's been like so entertaining to follow. So I'm just super excited to actually play the games and be a part of that, and actually be in a league where you have all the best players. So I'm looking forward to that. But also just to experience everything around to see where we are now in women's hockey, and to kind of take in everything and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's enough talking about it. Let's get to the ice, right? Like that's it's like, yeah,
Yes.
it's great. It's great. I'm excited, but I just want to get there. I just want to
Yeah.
start. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Um, so in prepping for this conversation, I stumbled across a quote of yours that I want to read back to you and get your thoughts on. So you've said, we put down the same time and effort, and we need to be treated the same way. It's just that simple. We have to give 200% of ourselves. That's 100% at work and another 100% at hockey. So when you think about your own journey, how has committing to that level of effort helped to guide the choices that you've made in the path that you've taken?
Well, I think like obviously it's been something sometimes like I feel like I have a better situation now as a hockey player where I'm able to focus just on hockey. But sometimes I look back at the time, I was like, wow, I was actually doing this and this and also playing. So I feel like it's like it gives a lot of confidence you as a player, but also as a human being, you know, what you're actually capable of, and having this respect for yourself that it's like yeah, you actually been able to do all this at the same time you've been like a pro athlete. So kind of giving yourself a little bit credit, and also kind of like yeah, a little motivation like moving forward is like yeah, it's kind of cool what we have been able to achieve, even though maybe the circumstances has not always been the best.
If someone could only know one thing about you beyond the accolades, the awards, the stats, all of that stuff, which is incredible, not to dismiss that, incredible, of course. What's a story or maybe an experience that would best show who you are as a person?
Oh, um that's a tough question because I feel like it's more like a multiple things that kind of like I wouldn't say that I'm special, but it's just maybe a little like I have different things that I like. I like the older stuff. I like to rewind a little bit, and I like things like maybe a little more than how they used to be, certain
Hmm.
things.
Hmm.
And it's like, for example, I have a collection of vinyls. I like that because I feel like an album is supposed to be listened from the start to the finish. You know, we are always in such a hurry, and I think that might be a good example of a little bit how I am as a person. That I kind of like, that a little bit old school and a little bit like old soul, and in many ways.
Okay, let's get to the final buzzer. Okay, so I'm gonna start off, and are you ready?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, what is your go-to pregame meal?
That's pad thai, and I think it's more a kind of tradition because I've had some teammates that we've been eating it together. So it might be more about like actually being able to hang out with some of my friends.
Mm. Okay, wasn't expecting that at all. But I'll try not to ask any follow-up questions, even though I have them. What's your favorite way to unwind after a tough game or a long tournament?
I think nowadays it's actually like hanging out with my dog. I might be able to actually bring him
Oh,
here.
a
Here
guest
he is.
appearance.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I think just like I don't know, just chill out with him, and kind of like try to calm down a little bit and be able to have a little quiet time and be able to actually enjoy everything that has been. It might not always be a good game, but I think just analyzing and calming down the brain.
So this might be the most important question I ask of this entire conversation, but what is your dog's name?
It's Otis. It's after
Otis.
Otis Redding. He's a old like artist from the 50s, 60s.
Very in keeping towards what you the
Yes.
story you shared earlier. So I like that.
Yeah.
What's maybe a locker room memory that still makes you laugh today?
In my first week of joining the Frölunda team, they actually broke a hole to the roof of our locker room, and we basically had like a waterfall inside the locker room. And I have one of my teammates. She told me years after, she was like, "I thought you were gonna leave. I thought you were not like you were like this is not serious." Like, so I think that
Not a
would
great
be
impression. No.
no, no, no.
Okay, I thought I wasn't sure if the team put that hole in the ceiling or if maybe it happened. Was it construction or something like that that the hole ended up in the ceiling?
I don't know what actually happened, but
That's
fun
fair.
story is like the year before that I played in Lugano, which is like close to Milano, which is like it's really hot there. And I actually told him like, oh, I thought I played at the most exotic place, but then I came here and you have a waterfall inside of the locker room, and they were all laughing.
Yeah, a nice a waterfall feature in the locker room. Yeah,
Yeah.
spared no expense for you. What is, thinking back to your journey and the many arenas and cities that you've had the opportunity to play in. What's maybe a favorite city or arena that you've been able to play in over your career?
I have to give a shout out to Vancouver, and it's not
Mm.
just because I got drafted there. I have to say that moment that I also described earlier. That was like probably the biggest game of my career.
Who is a teammate who always made even the toughest moments fun?
I think it's Johanna Fällman. She used to play with the Swedish national team many years, and also North Dakota, and also play 1 year with the New York team. And I think like just because I've been through everything with her, we've played in a couple different leagues together, and it's just been kind of been growing up together. So I would say her.
Outside of hockey, what's one thing that you still want to cross off your bucket list?
I want to go in a van around Europe together with my wife and my dog. That's kind of on the bucket list, and we'll see maybe when I retire.
If your teammates had to describe you in one word, what would that word be?
I think creative. I think I tend to like things that are a little different because I
Mm,
just it's something that intrigues me and is something I find interesting. I want to know why is it like this and things like that. So I want to know the story behind it.
okay. Last one for you, and maybe the second most important question that I ask. Um, you made quite the noise, if you will, at the recent PWHL draft for all the right reasons, and that is your style. Your fit check that day was just off the charts. It was the talk of, I live in Ottawa. I can tell you it was the talk of the city for many days after the draft. So I need to know, do you bring that same sense of style every day off the ice? Or was that because of how profound that moment was, or how much you were looking forward to that moment?
I would say it definitely was like reflected me and what I was talking about earlier, this kind of old school kind of like style I'm very inspired by. And I do have a large hat collection. So I promise I will bring a lot of hats over to Vancouver, and hopefully I can also buy some new ones there. But I would say probably not every day I would look like that. I definitely also do look like maybe the rest of the hockey players sometimes, but I do like to have I like to explore with my style, and I think it's something that's fun and something that's should just be something that makes you happy. And I like that people like to express them differently. And I think for me, I am very inspired by uh, 50s, 60s kind of style.
One of the things, and I promise this is going to be the last question, but one of the things from the draft specifically was you had mentioned your hats, was a story about your hats, and there being a number of different options that you wanted to bring with you that may have went through bag check. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the various hats that you brought with you as well?
Yeah, I did bring three different hats there because I thought obviously it was hard to decide, and I do have a hat bag. I'm not sure if it's going with me to Vancouver because it's a bigger one, and I might want to bring other stuff as well. But yeah, it's the hat bag is true, and yeah, it's true. I did bring a lot of hats to the occasion.
And I feel like that is a perfect place for us to wrap up today's conversation. So I want to say, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me and for sharing your story, your journey from your roots in Denmark to your years shaping teams and representing Finland internationally, and now stepping into this exciting new chapter in the PWHL. Uh, it's been absolutely incredible having a conversation with you. And I'm sure fans are just as excited as I am to follow what comes next. So thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. And if you enjoyed this episode as much as we both did, as well as Otis, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps us to grow and continue to bring you inspiring stories just like Michelle's from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Rinkside Rundown.